I don't doubt the aspirations of all parents in relation to their children. But I mean all parents. What we've been able to do is to make sure we release the funding to ensure that our state secondary schools have the teachers they need. And there's no point the party opposite pretending that they're interested in state education when they left them without the teaching they needed.
Dr. Reid, Jake Ball.
Thank you, Mr.
You may not have seen a moment like this before. Recently, Keir Starmer, the leader of the British Labour Party and the Prime Minister, was publicly embarrassed and accused of lying in Parliament. What was even more shocking was the type of lie he told, one so outrageous that it left members of Parliament, MPs, in disbelief. No one could have ever imagined that Starmer, of all people, would say something like this and try to defend it. His lie was so bold that MPs couldn't hold back their reactions, and the scene turned chaotic with criticism directed at Starmer. The Speaker of the House had to intervene, and Starmer grew visibly nervous about the potential consequences.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. St Hilda's Girls' School looks set to join Emmanuel Jewish Prep as the second school in Bushey alone forced to close because of Labour's VAT hike. This is a double hit to aspiration. First, the parents, many of whom not wealthy, who have described the significant sacrifices they have made to send their children to these schools. And secondly, to the excellent local state schools, including the one that I attended, which simply do not have the places, meaning this policy won't even save money. So may I therefore urge the Prime Minister, even at this late stage, to look again at the failures in this policy.
So, what exactly did Starmer say that led to such a strong backlash from MPs? It was a statement that showed how easily he could lie and act as if what he was saying was undeniable truth. In this article, we will break down the entire situation for you. Sometimes, politicians tell lies that are so outrageous, so out of touch with reality, that they completely blow people's mind. These lies are often so extreme that people become speechless, unable to form a response because of how audacious the politician's behavior is. This was exactly what happened in the British Parliament during a heated debate regarding Starmer's policy to add a tax to private school fees. Even before Starmer made his statement in Prime Minister's Questions, PMK's, a private school in his own constituency, had already made the announcement that it was shutting down because of his VAT policy. The Village School for Girls in Camden. The school's administration directly pointed the finger at Labour's reckless taxation policies, which made it impossible for Starmer to deny the impact of his decisions. This wasn't just one isolated case. 12 private schools had already closed, and their shutdowns were directly linked to Labour's VAT policy. According to reports, at least 77 independent schools in England have closed since Labour first proposed the tax, and many more are expected to follow this same pattern.
I was a scholarship boy at my school and very proud of it, and I have to ask, what kind of a politician is it that sets out to make it more difficult for schools to offer exactly the kind of scholarships and bursaries that gave him such a crucial leg up in life? And the answer, of course, is Keir Starmer and the opportunity-destroying, aspiration-hating Labour Party. Read about it in my column in the Daily Mail.
The evidence was piling up. Small and mid-sized independent schools, especially those outside London and the southeast, were struggling to stay open because of the added tax burden. Parents could no longer afford the sudden price hikes. Student numbers were dwindling, and these schools were forced to close their doors. So, what happens to all these displaced students? They end up in the already overburdened state education system, which simply doesn't have the capacity to accommodate them. The situation is getting worse by the day. When Labour first announced their VAT policy, they claimed it would raise £1.8 billion to fund the education system, and that money would supposedly be used to hire more teachers and improve state schools. At first glance, the idea seemed appealing, but when you take a closer look, it falls apart. By forcing tens of thousands of students out of private education, Labour's plan is actually putting more strain on already struggling state schools, rather than improving them. State schools are already overcrowded. Teachers are stretched thin, and now Starmer is pushing even more students into a system that is barely functioning as it is. The result? More competition for places in already overrun state schools, with parents who had saved up for private education now having to fight for limited spots in the best state schools.
The Prime Minister's decision to impose VAT on independent schools strips hard-working families of the choice for what is best for their children, while risking job losses for teachers, increasing class sizes, and squeezing state school resources to their absolute limit. With these impending threats, what actions is the Prime Minister taking to mitigate these effects if he is not undertaking an impact assessment to understand them?
Look, I do understand that many parents across the country save hard to be able to send their children to private school because they have aspiration for their children. So does every parent who sends their children to a state school. And the problem we have is we don't have enough teachers in key subjects in our state secondary school. Now, the party opposite may be prepared to tolerate that. I'm not. And that's why we've made this change to fund 6,500 teachers.
This will lead to even greater inequality, larger class sizes, and fewer resources for students. Starmer claims that this policy is designed to help working-class families. But the truth is, it will only worsen the situation. State schools are already struggling to keep up with demand, and adding thousands of new students to the mix will make things even worse. On top of this, with many private schools closing, thousands of teachers will be left without jobs, and state schools will not be able to hire enough staff fast enough to accommodate all the new students. However, Starmer seems unable to understand the negative effects of his own policies. This is especially frustrating considering his own privileged educational background, which makes his hypocrisy even more glaring. When asked about his schooling, Starmer admitted that he attended a grammar school in Surrey. What's more, the school he attended became a private institution while he was still a student there. And what did Starmer say when confronted with this fact? He claimed that he didn't even appreciate it at the time. So, the man who now claims that private education is an unfair privilege attended a private school himself. Yet, he is now trying to block other families from having the same opportunity he had. This behavior reeks of elitist hypocrisy. Starmer climbed the ladder of success, only to turn around and pull it up behind him, making it harder for others to follow. In the meantime, prestigious schools like Eton, Harrow, and Westminster will continue to thrive.
I don't doubt the aspirations of all parents in relation to their children. But I mean all parents. What we've been able to do is to make sure we release the funding to ensure that our state secondary schools have the teachers they need. And there's no point the party opposite pretending that they're interested in state education when they left them without the teaching they needed.
Dr. Reid, take ball.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The real victims of Labour's tax policy aren't the super rich. They are the middle-class families who work hard and save in order to send their children to small independent schools. These families are now being punished by Starmer's disastrous plan. Before we continue, let's take a moment. Are you enjoying this article so far? If so, please like and share it. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more exclusive videos on the groundbreaking changes taking place in British politics. Now, let's go a little deeper. Labour's tax hike on private schools isn't just unpopular, it could also be potentially illegal. The Independent Schools Council has launched a challenge against Labour's VAT policy in the High Court.
There is no punchline. I presume something was said that shouldn't have been said. I'm sure the member would like to withdraw what was said, if they've anything about them.
They argue that the policy violates the human rights of both children and parents by disrupting their access to education. At the same time, even some Labour MPs are beginning to grow uncomfortable with this policy. Rupa Huq, a Labour MP, has even warned that the policy is too blunt and may need to be reconsidered. She suggested that smaller schools should be exempt from the tax, acknowledging the damage already being done. Labour might have backed themselves into a corner. If the legal challenge against the VAT tax succeeds, Starmer could be forced into a humiliating U-turn. If he refuses to back down, Labour could be held responsible for one of the biggest education crises in modern British history. And that's exactly what happened. After an MP called out Starmer to reverse the VAT policy, everyone knew what the MP said was correct. The VAT tax on private schools was having a devastating impact on education. People expected Starmer to dodge the question or at least suggest that he would look into it. But instead, Starmer took a completely different approach. It seemed as though he had decided to commit political suicide. In Parliament, Starmer's political deception was laid bare for all to see. His dismissive attitude towards reality was met with an open challenge from Conservative MPs, who could no longer sit idly by as he lied to the public. Starmer insisted, without any evidence to support him, that his VAT policy wasn't causing private schools to close. But by the time he made this claim, reality had already proven him wrong. That's when Victoria Atkins, a Conservative frontbencher, had enough. She directly called out Starmer's lie, shouting across the chamber that what he had just said was a lie. The House of Commons erupted in response. Of course, Atkins was forced to withdraw her statement, as parliamentary rules prevent MPs from directly accusing each other of lying. But she had only said what everyone was already thinking. Starmer was caught in the act of denying reality, attempting to gaslight the entire country into believing that his damaging tax policies weren't causing the very problems they were creating. This wasn't just a routine clash in Parliament, it was a full-on expose of Starmer's credibility. This was a moment of reckoning for him, a moment when his lies, failed policies, and hypocrisy were all exposed to the public, live on national television. Despite this, Starmer's arrogance is remarkable. Even as schools close under his watch, as parents struggle with rising fees, and as students are forced out of classrooms, he continues to pretend that nothing is wrong. This is not the type of leadership that Britain needs. Starmer is showing himself to be a detached, out-of-touch elitist, more interested in playing political games than in finding real solutions. If he doesn't wake up soon, this education disaster will be the defining moment of his political career. His downfall is coming faster than he realizes. Because one thing that the British public hates more than incompetence is dishonesty, and Starmer just got caught lying to the entire nation with devastating consequences for thousands of families. What do you think? Does Starmer still have the moral right to remain as the British Prime Minister? Isn't it true that his actions are tarnishing the reputation of the office and disrespecting the oath he took? Share your thoughts in the comments section below. If you want to watch more videos like this one, please like and share this article. And don't forget to subscribe for more updates on British politics and the ongoing changes.